So after Arma, the other day a question came up. The question was, how do we create simple Intel objects that are very easy to make and plop them in the mission? There are multiple ways of making it. I will show a few today. There are some that I love and some that I don't. So here are ones that I think are very viable. So the first one is the ACEx Intel objects. As you can see here, there's a document, there are photos. I have a bad photo and a good photo example showing you how the formatting should be. There's also a notepad. It works and functions almost the same as a document, so showing you document is plenty. Then we have the method that I like, which can be any object, doesn't matter what it is. And then we can create a trigger and a diary entry or a task, whatever the case may be. And the way that you should not do it in the editor is by using this Intel object. So if I search for Intel, you notice that I have Intel over here. This Intel object is meant to be used in Zeus, not necessarily in the Eden editor. So let's quickly take a look at how these different Intel objects interact and what they actually show us. And then we'll jump into how to script them, how to create them. And you'll see it's not that difficult to create these Intel objects. Okay. We'll start off with the ACEx. Now these are ACE objects, so of course scroll action or interaction doesn't seem to work, but if you do an ACE interaction with it, you'll be able to pick it up. I picked up a document. Now you'll notice that in my inventory the document has been added. There are no photos in my inventory because I've not picked them up yet. How do I access this document? If I go to the inventory and move my mouse over it, it says, okay, it's a printed document, can access from map screen. So let's go to the map screen. If I ACE interact with the map screen, nothing happens. But I self interact on the map screen and I have Intel items. Documents, activate it, and then whatever I write in the text shows up. In this case, I was talking about what kind of image is good to create an image file. Again, powers of 2, PAA format works the best. I'll show you how to make this format in a little bit. Key thing to note here is if I have this document open, if I do a self interaction, there is no other Intel available. But if I close this, the self interaction shows me the Intel item and I can reopen it. This is useful if you have multiple documents where it just says document and you don't know which one you're trying to access, right? So it'll be easier to do it this way. Okay, let's take a look at the photos. This is, I believe, the bad one. Let's take a look. Yes, it's a blank one. There is nothing in here because the image source I used was a .png. Even though it was a 256 by 256 image, it doesn't show up. A PAA will show up for sure. And that, oops, and that is over here. So let's take a look at this new photo. There we go. It works. How do you make this PAA file? We'll take care of that in a moment. All right, let's close these documents and take a look at the documents that, or the Intel that we can create from editor. This is my favorite method right here. So this is just a document. I've created an add action to make it delete. Hey, I'm using a trigger to hint that you have picked up an Intel. Again, if I go back to the map screen and to the briefing tab, I have created a briefing entity. It can be anything. It can be a entity right here, but by default it shows up in briefing, and that's fine. So test Intel. So this is a cup manual delete trigger. You can manually delete it. And again, you can use the same name, test Intel, as the heading, and more entries will be created right after this instead of creating a new Intel tab. Let me show you that by using this bad one. So if I pick the Zeus specific Intel object, something happens. First thing, it creates a blank entry, right, called Intel. It doesn't have anything, but all the triggers associated with that object vanishing still fire, which means in the briefing test intel, I have a new entity at 1340, 1 minute after this, and it says this is the vanilla intel, and this must be used with Zeus. Okay, I'll show you how to use this with Zeus quite easily. Okay, let's do that right now before we jump into the scripts. I don't think I have Zeus access right now, but I can create a Zeus. And now I have Zeus access. Provided you're logged in, you're the host, there's a CPA setting where you can set that up. Okay, let's create a task for this dude. Let's go here, Intel, objects, right? It's an Intel object. Let's see, document. Let's plop a document down. Now see what happens the moment I drop this document down, right? This window doesn't show up in the editor, which is why you can't do it in the editor, but you can do this in Zeus. So this is meant to be used with Zeus. Make sure your side is selected. If it's unselected, the person can't interact with it. Documents, description, this is a fake document, whatever. Okay, images. Right now it's the default empty image with the exclamation mark that you saw before. Unfortunately, we are not able to add a custom image here. There may be a mod out there that may let me do it, but right now we can't. But we can add images from here. For example, Air Force Base. Done. Stratus Air Base. Why not? Let's use that image. So that's my document. That's me. Let me go take a look. And take Intel. Notice that there is a document. This was the fake blank Intel we picked up. That's why this is blank. But if I click on the Documents tab, you see that picture that we selected showed up. And Zeus can create, such Intel for people to pick up. Okay, so those were the three methods. 2 in editor, 1 in Zeus. Let's take a look at the scripts real quick. So the simplest one is just using ACEx documents. So how do we do this? Well, you plop one of these ACEx documents down, and then inside, if you scroll down, there's a text box. You just put in the text. Anyone who accesses it can pick it up, look at the text in the map. We are done. If all your Intel documents are just like coordinates or letters from someone to someone, whatever the case may be, this is a very easy way of doing it. Okay, what about images? Now, I told you this is a bad photo. So if I look at this one, you'll see it says image.png, and the good photo is the same image.PAA. Question is, how do you create this image.PAA? Let's take a look. If I pull up the folder, I have the image. I'm going to get rid of it so I can show it to you. So right now we have image.png. This is a 256 by 256 image, which you can make with a GIMP tool, right? So if I open up an image, let's say we open the same image up again, keep my formatting, whatever. Okay, this is the image. I just go to image, scale image. I want it to be 256 by whatever, keep the scale as it is. But this is not 256 by 256, so I want to make the canvas size from here 256 by 256, and then say center it, and I want to fill it with white, foreground color, background color, whatever. White's fine for now. Resize, boom. This is exactly what I've done here, right? And if you want to export it, you can go File, Export as PNG. Keep in mind, PNG is one of the easiest formats to convert to PAA, so you want to export it as a PNG file. Keep the options as default. When it asks you to save, just save it, and you're fine. Okay, now that you have saved it as a PNG, you are in this folder. how do I convert this PNG to a PAA file? Now, if you want to convert this PNG to PAA, we will need to use the Arma 3 tools. The first time you install it, it's going to ask you to accept some license agreement, install additional required software. Go ahead and do it. Once you're done, you'll be presented with this screen. Image to PAA is the application we need. Once I click it, it pops open. Again, you don't have to worry about the details of what source, whatever. Just drag the image you want to convert. In this case, I want to convert PNG to PAA. Drag it here, hit process files, and it will say that if you've not given output directory, it's going to place it in the same folder. Are you sure? I'm like, yep. I don't have any other image.paa here, otherwise it will be overwritten because that's what it does by default. So I'm going to plop it down, image to PAA. Okay, now here's an interesting thing. I already have this setup in which I can double click this and it's going to show up. But what if you don't have this setup? It'll be an empty file. How do you know the transfer or the conversion has succeeded? What you do is you right click on this one, go to properties, change. That's the one I'm using, but you can go to more apps, look for apps on your PC. If you have Arma 3 tools installed, which in my case is along with my server, the same hard drive as my server. Anyway, so here we go into image to PAA. It's very tempting to use the files inside here to use to view, but these are the converters, these are not the viewers. Okay, the viewer is actually in text view too. So if you open that up, again you want the text view.exe. That's what that symbol is. Click on that, hit open, apply. Okay, it's going to use it all the time now and show it to you. Okay, all right. So that's how you create an image and make sure you're able to see the image. Cool. Now let's look at the actual scripts. My favorite method is actually to use any object, right? So let's take a look at this cup Intel thing. All I have done is given it a name, in this case a cup Intel. It can be whatever you want it to be. Add an add action. Add action is given this way. This is this object. The action I'm going to add action is basically a scroll wheel interaction in Arma. So what do I want to give in this add action? I want to give it a very simple command. There's a lot more to add action than just this, but this is the easiest way. So the easiest way is just put down what should show up in your scroll menu when you scroll wheel over it. What action should it take when you scroll wheel over it? So what shows up is pick up documents. I click on pick up documents. What the game is actually doing is deleting this particular evidence all by itself. So it's going to delete this. So this object is gone once I interacted with it. Now how do I figure out that, okay, this object is gone, does do something, right? And that is done by a trigger. So a trigger, in this case I have not alive cup Intel, so cup Intel is dead. And I say, hey, hint, using this trigger to hint you that you have picked up an Intel. Keep in mind /n is basically next line. It's just the way it works. Anyway, so this trigger is synced with the create diary record. In this case, if I don't put anything in subject, it's going to place it in briefing. That's what it's saying, and that's what it did. Notice this is where I had the description, whatever I typed in, showed up. This could be a task. It doesn't need to be a diary record, but diary record is an easier way to create tasks. We don't have to have the video gamey, fulfill this objective for the thing to pop up. You can just say, okay, go here, do this, and people will go there and do this. Anyway, this is my way. Now, this one is basically the same thing, but the Intel item itself doesn't need any in it. It will automatically delete itself when it's picked up. The downside is it creates a phantom Intel entity. So I recommend not using this method. but rather just using this method. Now this may seem complicated, but it's not. Let's create a new one just for practice. Let's say let's say you're in a desert, you're an evil guy, and you found a sink the local populace is using, and let's say you don't like this big sink. Let's say you want to get rid of it. So let's add an add action. So this add action, square brackets, semicolon, finishes the expression. Inside the square brackets, the first set of quotations is the add action text that's going to show up to you. The second set of quotations is what it will do. So first set of quotations, you want to get rid of it. Let's say make the sink go poof, because why not? And the command would be delete vehicle space the name of the vehicle, in this case big sink, right? Technically that will work. I put a semicolon because it's an expression. In case I need to add anything to it, that helps me with that. Some people don't even use quotes but use the brackets over here, but this is the easiest way to write it. Okay, we have an add action. Let me get rid of the exclamation mark, sometimes it causes issues. Alright, simple, fine. Now this can go poof. That's the exact same command that's over here, right? But what if I want to have a trigger that triggers after this happens? Okay, let's find a trigger. Let's say that when not alive, so usually the command goes in front and then the object. Say when the big sink is not alive, this trigger will go off, right? That's all I've done. I've not given type, I've not given anything else, just saying that when this is not alive, this trigger will go off. Now on activation, what do you want this trigger to do? You can give a hint. I don't know, the town folks are hunting you, whatever. Up to you, whatever you want to make it. Okay, so that's my hint, that's my trigger. Now you say, okay, I want to create a diary record, right? So the easiest way is to come here and go for diary. Or you want to create a task, you can create a task as well. You know, let's do that just to show you that it's doable. Let's say create task. So when this trigger is activated, I'm going to create this task. So the create task would be groups of synchronized objects. If you want to synchronize it to a certain groups, you can just say, okay, blue 4, create the task for all blue 4. Escape. Description. Your comrade has caused chaos. Escape now. Something. Doesn't matter. Now, you can set a state here. Like when it's created, do you want it to be assigned, success, failed, whatever. Usually you want to create and assign it. Task type, the default is fine. If there is a okay, exit, there we go, get out of here. Sure, show notification, done. So this just creates a task. Now whether it's completed or not, you can have a second trigger to finish the task. You can manually finish it in Zeus, whatever the case may be. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works, or if it works. This is on the fly right now. So these things still here, I don't care. Come to the sink. Make the sink go poof. Town folks are hunting you. Escape. Where? Run away. Okay, anyway, jokes aside, that's how you create triggers and Intel stuff. Pretty straightforward. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to ask and we'll figure it out.